Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. I'm Rishabh Gulati. We have budget coming up in just a couple of days. And as a country, we take an opportunity, not because the budgetary exercise is now the be-all, end-all exercise as it used to be 30 years ago. Everything that happens in the policies that are put forth, the rules, regulations, investments, all through the course of the year, as they should be, have gained preeminence. But it is an opportunity in the budget speech for us to focus on the economy, which otherwise should be the most important issue. But of course, we get hijacked by the latest developments on the day, many of which become political. Now, if we have to have a vision, what is it going to be? You can qualify that vision in terms of how many trillions of dollars our economy should be by 2025 or 2030. The direct correlation is that we're looking for at least the first milestone of a $5 trillion economy in the next few years. Some would say then that has to be doubled to 10. You'll have to grow, and we are growing at a healthy rate of more than 7%, considering the world is closer to 1% this year as the fastest growing economy. We've hit the top 5. The target is now the top 3. You cannot divide the pie of the economy into smaller and smaller pieces. You have to grow the length of the pie. We know that we are now in the midst of a new generation of technologies. If we are to go from the roughly 3 trillion where we are to 5 trillion, what is the future going to be? If, for example, the space sector is going to be worth a couple of $100 billion a year, if India has 10% of that pie, that adds $10 billion to the economy. I want you to start imagining for a second that ISRO becomes a net revenue earner that not only subsidizes but pays for the R&D and missions that ISRO will do, including sending off Indian Gaganauts into space, but also contribute to the exchequer. In the next few years, we will have the first time in the history of this country, of independent India, defense production contributing to the exchequer, which means money that comes in which is not from direct or indirect taxes. These are huge deals. So over the course of the next 60 minutes, we've broken this up into two halves, looking forward and looking back, both in terms of the impact on the economy. And let us start with looking forward. When it comes to quantum computing, to artificial intelligence, to augmented reality and virtual reality, to blockchain and crypto, to understanding biotechnology, all of these new frontline emerging sectors, and I've already mentioned space, are going to be worth trillions of dollars in the next few years. For us to become a $5 trillion or $10 trillion economy, not only will we have to grow the bases that we also have, but we will have to capture a part of this market share, whether through development, R&D, or through selling products, which we are getting increasingly better at. Which are these sectors that are then going to generate the jobs, are going to generate the employment? Now, I was reading a fascinating story in the entire crypto space in which India has not banned it, but we don't know where we are on it. Of the top 10 cryptos in the world, one has been founded out of Mumbai, okay, which is doing really well, is one of the fastest adopted. It's called Polygon Matic. Read up about it. Now, despite the fact that we have not created any regulatory or ecosystem otherwise, we are at the fulcrum or the potential fulcrum of innovation. ISRO is at the peak of innovation. The space sector, which is now in private hands, is at the peak of this innovation. And the translation of that into ecosystems, into viable sectors, not just companies or organizations, is going to be the next thing. So let me open up this conversation to have a slightly forward-looking, larger vision of what the future is and how we should gear up for it. Bhairav Shankar, he is MD of Avantari Technologies. Sunil Tiwari, Chief Project Officer at Simulanis. Mitali Nikore, founder of Nikore Associates. She's an economist. Ajit Khurana, founder of Reflexical. And Wing Commander Sudhakaran is joining us on the broadcast. He's not only spent time in uniform, but he is a CEO of QGates Technology and is running his own firm. Let me start with Wing Commander Sudhakaran. Wing Commander, in just terms of identifying the sectors that are going to be the next $1 trillion space, what are you seeing in front of you?
See, not only do I need to tell you what is important right now to be invested in, but we have a threat of sorts, right? The same story that East India Company repeated 200 years back has already come in the digital form. We are already under a digital colonized regime. I don't know if we have realized this. We've been subservient to Google, and now there is a new monster of the block. We know it as ChatGPT, and we have still not seen what Google's Lambda is all about. Does India have an answer to this? No. How much has Microsoft invested in developing this technology from the womb of OpenAI? It's over $1 billion. So what I want to first tell you is, if we really want to get serious about this, and rather than patting our back, we need to improve our JERD ratio. Our JERD ratio, which is the GDP to R&D ratio, is something like 0.7%. The top countries, South Korea, Israel, Japan, United States, and Sweden, they hover around anywhere between 3% to 4.5%. We have a population of 5 times the United States of America, which means that if you really need to reap the demographic dividend in this country, you cannot be 5 times lesser in your GDP allocation of R&D. That needs to be stressed upon. I can keep telling that where we need to focus and how much money we need to tell. For the sake of repetition, let me tell you, we actually club the donkeys and horses together. Do we really understand what is strategic technology and deep tech and stealth tech all about? Today, if a guy is developing a technology for a Zomato, Swiggy, Ola, Uber kind of an automation, he's also classified as the same kind of startup rather than the one who is going to develop the ChatGPT class of applications. And let me tell you, nobody is doing it in India. We are found wanting in that sector. Okay. In terms of AI, when we speak about, we are 90% of our companies are GitHub downloaders. They just merely tweak frameworks that are available on GitHub and masquerade themselves as AI companies. How many are doing original AI, and how many do really understand the real definition of AI? And
okay. So let me qualify for a lay viewer what all you just said. So if you heard of ChatGPT or otherwise, Google invested about $1 billion in ChatGPT. It was a company that Elon Musk was a part of, exited a few years ago. Google is now spending another $10 billion to get a 49% stake in ChatGPT, and it's going to be the future of search. It is an AI-based language model. So it feeds off the database of the entire internet, but gives you answers instead of websites. It gives you answers which are collated from the entire internet, like you're talking to someone. Now, that's the future. Then Google Maps is probably going to be the future of augmented reality. So when Wing Commander is talking about the new East India companies, these are big companies. I'll give you an example of what this means. We are developing apps. Let's say you are a startup and an app developer. That app has to work on a platform. It's probably going to work on either the Apple iOS platform or on the Android platform, which means you are now subservient to their stores. Then you have to have a hardware platform. Unless you are able to build all of these, they are owned and controlled by others, and then they can decide by tweaking their rules and policies which apps can work. This happened with Paytm when they were doing some sort of, I think, scheme or award scheme that they were running, and Google took them off for a few times. They said that you're violating our terms of agreement. That's a major company in India whose operations were therefore almost shut down because Google decided to change its policies. So there is an existential threat here. My basis always is that we have to create the front line. If you want to build electric vehicles, you have to be building the batteries. And if you want to build the batteries, you have to be finding the lithium and mining it. You can't be doing it the reverse way, that we build the EVs without building the batteries. And that's the summation here. Let me get Sunil Tiwari into this conversation. Sunil ji, but in identifying the areas on what we need to do in the frontline technology of the 5th Industrial Revolution, where is it going? What are the scales going to be like? And where do we need to be the first movers?
So, thank you. So basically, the 5th revolution is, this is Industry 4.0 revolution is coming along with the 5G network. Now, to answer your question, where we actually had to, because we wanted to make it like $5 trillion economy or other $1 trillion economy. To make those economies run, we need employable or scalable person, which major of the developed countries do have. So to make all these skilled persons, we do need, resources where we can utilize and make people a skilled labor.
Okay, but how are we going to do this? Because
Yes,
we have a new
so
education policy,
so
but
that's
when
why-
it's now become a cliche to say that we have educated but unskilled workforce.
Yeah.
Okay, let's face it. By the time I joined college, despite university and masters, I had to learn on the job. So when you say how is it going to happen, Mr. Tiwari?
You correctly mentioned this one, that we are educated, but not the skilled persons. So because we know we don't have, the labor who has had hands-on practices. And to make that happen, we have these technologies called augmented reality and virtual reality, where you can.
Okay, so let me jump into that in direct so that there is some anecdotal evidence. Tell me about Simulanis. What do you guys do?
So basically, we develop, few of the augmented and virtual reality based skill module training modules where you can use it for education purposes and training or making.
So I can put on a VR headset, okay, and remotely receive training. And I'm assuming there's an image behind your screen of a particular industrial job or a technical skill. I can receive this. Now, in terms of this sector of, I'm not talking about metaverse virtual reality. In terms of utilizing for productive workflow, VR and AR, how are you guys assuming that this is a $100 billion market, $500 billion market in 5 years? What's it like?
So it's like, as per the data, it's gonna be $1.43 trillion market by 2030. It's going at a very good rate of 30% CAGR.
Okay. Then I have to ask you the tough question. Okay, how much of this is of the innovation part of this is being done? I've already mentioned, Polygon-matic as a good example because innovation is happening in India and they're doing hardcore innovation on Web3 and blockchain. But how much innovation are you doing versus adopting other models, which are pre-existing?
Basically, yes. So that's why R&D is going to happen in this field very soon, and they are actually, there is a lot of things which actually happened in this field. Now we do have technology to scale it up. So like in the terms of like having a headset. So headset was already 2 decades back. But now it is taking a pace with the 5G network. We can have actually you can say architecture to build up and scale this technology to the entire nation.
So this is the reason you guys are watching a bunch of probably panelists you don't recognize, other than Wing Commander Sudhakaran, who sits with us very often, is because these are emerging sectors. So these are not the people who've already run the oil and gas and real estate and manufacturing. Which is what I'll probably be sitting with on budget day. These are sectors that we still don't honestly understand and we need to very, very rapidly. Let me get Ajit Khurana into this. Ajit ji, give us a bearing. No, I mentioned Polygon-matic, a top 10 crypto right now in the space. Very much, it's 3 of its 4 co-founders are Indians. They've been based out of Bombay. They are killing it. They've got global investment and they are at the front line of innovation. They're not just copying the blockchain models, they're innovating to make them more rigorous, more effective, faster, quicker, cheaper, etc. In terms of the space itself, how big is it going to be in 4 or 5 years' time?
Very quickly, I work very closely with Polygon-matic. All 3 of the original founders, the 4th guy came later, were all from India. But here is something that a lot of you may not know, that presently neither the company is located in India nor are the founders based here. So this is the problem that we are facing.
Have they been in Singapore, sir?
It's in Dubai actually.
Yeah, Dubai. Oh yeah.
So I actually am walking distance from where they are really. So I know them very well. 10 days ago, literally 10 days back, I was at the World Economic Forum in Davos and I found so many countries actually inviting us and saying, hey, I know you. Why don't you come and set up a base here? They offered us huge incentives. And when it came to the previous budget, and we are days away from the new one, actually, while we were acknowledged by taxing us, but the nature of taxes were hugely penalizing or punitive, as opposed to being on par with the other sectors of the Indian economy or investment. As far as the size is concerned, Polygon at its peak in a fully diluted value was at a 30 billion. Polygon alone was $30 billion worth. Currently, it is in the vicinity.
And you are saying we are not capturing a large part of that $30 billion because now for regulatory and other reasons, it's difficult to operate in this country. So I have to ask you, Mr. Khurana, has the taxation system understood the difference between crypto meme coins, which let's face it, some of them are dodgy, versus those that are actually serving a purpose and building a system, which Polygon, for example, is, versus the entire industry, which is blockchain? Has our taxation system understood that right now?
Our taxation system is blind to that. And you talked about meme coin versus infrastructure coin. We can extend that to NFTs or whatever. At this point of time, we are charging 1% on the whole transaction, not on the profit. And given that the market has been poor, I personally know people who have lost 60 to 70% in the market, but because they can't set off losses against profits as per the new tax code, having made losses, they have paid huge income tax as if they have made profit. This does not make sense.
Yeah, so if you're trading crypto and one trade you make a profit, okay, you are taxed on that. But in the next trade, if you make double the loss, you can't offset the loss. So you're still paying taxes despite the fact that you ended up losing money. So our taxation system has not understood this. Now I'm told at the G20 we want to take leadership on this. Now we're not currently taking leadership on this, even though we've addressed one major problem that Wing Commander Sudhakaran said, that the R&D and the innovation was happening in India, but we lost out a bit of that chunk. So let me get Mithali into this conversation. Mithali, there is a lot more energy now in setting up the semiconductor fabs, in these utter innovation missions, in getting 5G and R&D done on this. I'm told one of the major Indian conglomerates has just bought out a company that's making sodium-ion batteries, which maybe, take away the lithium factor and make a cheaper battery. So we are getting into this space. Which are the spaces? The space sector is another example. Which are the areas which are going to be the next trillion-dollar areas which we have to be a large player in?
Absolutely, Rishabh. I think I've been following this conversation. Of course, I'm not a tech expert, but I am the daughter of one. So, I would say that, what I've grown up watching, and it's very interesting to see that, is the growth of the IT sector from nothing. And when we saw companies, my father was one of the founders of HCL Technologies. And when you see, these companies which grew from nothing, just on the basis of good service, today they are at a precipice, at an inflection point where if they do not invest in upgrading the skills of the IT engineer, who is the fulcrum and the basis on which India's entire tech innovation sector relies, that's going to be our biggest challenge, because that's how my father and all of the people in his cohort built companies like HCL, built companies like Wipro, built companies like Infosys, and literally built the IT sector from scratch.
Okay, so what needs to happen? Because if you're looking at these frontline sectors, right? I mean, this has to work. So you need, if you want to control the entire chain, which means that if you want to set up an AI imaging platform that uses geospatial data, you have to be able to build the satellite, launch the satellite, put into orbit, have the AI that is going to receive the images from the satellite, and then, figure out whether it's good for real estate and what the land cover is right, and whether, there are enough roads in the area. If you want to do it, how do we unleash Team India in doing this? How do we get out of the way of Team India?
So I think, Rishabh, that's exactly the point. We need people with the right set of skills in order to be able to do it. The biggest problem and the biggest competitive advantage, both that India have today, is the IT engineer. If we do not invest today in upskilling that IT engineer to be able to unleash the innovation around these frontline sectors, to be able to not only catch up, because now we're not catching up. We're at the same place as the UK, as the US, as a lot of European countries when it comes to this know-how.
Okay. So can we isolate the areas at least? Can we come up with a list, because it's in the private sector, and the private sector has to do it. Government can't do this for us. Okay. But every time we talk about, IIT, IIM, the reason we talk about IIT, IIM is because if 5 lakh people are giving an entrance examination and 50 are getting selected, so the best of the best are going there, and majority of them then, go to MIT and on full scholarships and do wealth creation there. So let me get Bhairav back into this. Bhairav, what are the top 10 areas? We talked about skills, okay, we are all in agreement. But where are the 10 areas, the 10 sectors that are going to redefine the next 20 years of the global economy that we now need to be looking at very seriously?
Hi. So one of the things that I think that it's very difficult for us to say this, right? Because I would love to tell you that it's going to be AI, it's going to be, like augmented reality, it's going to be metaverse. I could list them out to you, but that's not the reality at which we are in right now. the reality is that none of us know, because the entire tech universe is in kind of like a flux. I think Wing Commander Sudhakaran kind of put it perfectly well. If you're in this space, if you're in the tech space, you don't know where the next big innovation is. Did you know that 2 years ago, crypto is going to come up in this kind of form? Did you know that 1 year ago, that crypto is going to crash? Did you all think that metaverse is going to be the next biggest thing? Did you know that it wasn't, right? So what is the next big thing is so vast a topic, and we give it away to the government to decide what it is, which should not be the case. It should be the government's responsibility to allow companies to keep pushing the boundaries and kind of figure out what the next innovation.
No, so I'll give you an example, Bhairav, which made me feel a whole lot better. So drones. Okay, now India is a highly, very, very still working under Official Secrets Act, highly bureaucratic place. And my gut reaction was that they're going to stifle this industry and say everything is no-fly zone. They did the opposite. Everything by default is a green zone except for certain security areas, which is absolutely fair enough. So it was a very progressive policy, which is of course excellent. But 3D printing, every kid in their house is a 3D printer if you go to America, right? It's still not a thing here in India. I mean, Boeing is making airplane parts of 3D printing. So in certain areas, the policies have been very progressive, but certain things are not catching on. What is the X factor missing there?
So I believe that what happened is okay, this is a little bit of history. I'm sorry, just bear with me for 1 minute.
Yeah.
In early 2000s, Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government started this entire thing called the TDB, which is the Technology Development Board, and empowered DSIR to kind of figure out what are these actually R&D labs which are performing really well. They gave them tax benefits. They gave them import benefits. They said on 400%, tax exemption on your entire revenue. So that was the amount. People were like suddenly interested in R&D at that particular point of time. The Modi government has kind of dismantled this entire sector, and it's a fair point because a lot of people were abusing the system. The thing that I believe should happen is empower the DSIR, make sure that they actually go and do the checks and balances. Don't remove the benefits from universities, companies who are actually performing a good job with R&D particularly. In fact, incentivize them more to keep producing.
But we have a problem in this. And let me get Wing Commander Sudhakaran in this. If I see a system that is working, okay, which is excellent at doing this, versus a system that is struggling at doing this. So I'll give you an example. You graduate IIT, IIM, okay. MIT then gives you a scholarship. Then they steal your talent. All right. They give you a really good deal, very tempting deal. Then you work for 3-4 years doing some R&D on some frontline issue. Then along with your professors, you form a company, okay? And then that company goes public. So there's an ecosystem from the universities that is encouraging people to translate just doing their PhD theses for the heck of doing a PhD thesis, just to become a doctor, versus something that is into a translatable problem-solving asset. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, now I'm seeing this innovation happening. For example, we've done a lot of conversations with IIT Madras. And they have set up a space research lab, and their professors and students and alumni are now coming up and churning out these space sector companies. So we are seeing it happening, but why aren't we being able to crack this system?
I'm personally involved. In fact, next week, as we speak, we have a major brainstorming session for drawing the roadmap for India for 2047. In fact, I'm one of the principal organizers as part of it. This is exactly, aimed at, nurturing, catalyzing, accelerating, and creating that kind of an ecosystem, what you're talking about. But notwithstanding that, I will just add a couple of points, okay? If you ask me what is the next key technology that to stick the neck out, I just named 2 technologies. I wouldn't say metaverse. You can't club everything together.
Fair enough.
It is AI and quantum. And why AI and quantum is important is, see, whatever you talk about invention and innovation, it comes out of the human intellect. Please understand this cognition is now getting transferred into the digital domain. And new inventions are now going to come there. Human beings cannot even think about it. Now, if we talk about the erstwhile Infosys, the TCS, the Wipros, please understand they're not innovators. They are just labor suppliers for this IT market. They just supply human capital. And our human capital is one of the best in the world. It's not that it is untrained or it's unskilled. We just have sheer number, and our guys work their ass out. And they are wanted and sought after world over. but that doesn't necessarily mean that we'll be able to invent and innovate. One of the key problems that I see is, the Atal Innovation Mission as well as the IDEX mission, both have 10 crore budget for developing cutting edge technology. Now, for God's sake, who decided this 10 crore? You are not going to a Sarojini market in Delhi shopping for innovation and invention with a budget. Get out of that budget mindset. You need to evaluate companies for what their merit is. If a company desires or needs 100 plus crores, because today a single GPU for training an AI comes for not less than 25 lakhs, and that simple GPU cannot train anything. If I need to train an ML, a normal ML framework, I need something like 5 to 10 crores only for that, and add to that the human capital. And what message that I want to give the government is, you need to understand that the strategic and deep sector needs to have at least a 5-year holiday, and please stop taxing the seed. You can tax the tree when it bears the fruit, but if you start taxing the seed, how will it grow? It will be growing
there's fundamental disconnects. I'm seeing a lot of green shoots and approaches. Now, I'll give you an example for a Zoom-like system, which is an intercommunication over internet system. For the first time, the government came up with, instead of a tender model, with an award-based model. That is a competition. The winner gets the contract and a certain sum, and the losers who come second, third also get a certain sum. Now, there's something called the X Prize, which generated the space sector, private space sector boom in the US. So moving away from tendering processes where, by default, you're supposed to select the lowest bidder, not the person who's coming up with the most innovative technologies. We are doing small examples of very good things, but I am trying to isolate which are the areas we need to work on. So I'm just going to quickly go across the panel before I wind up this conversation and go back to Sunil. Sunil, there's X we can do in the 30-minute conversation, obviously, but which are the areas? What are your top 5 areas in emerging sectors? Some will be hits, some will be misses. Who knows what happens to crypto? Who knows whether augmented reality trumps virtual reality? Who knows what's going to happen? What are the 5 sectors that you think are good bets that we need to be heavily looking at?
So, if we talk about the technologies, I think, obviously we can say metaverse and augmented reality will obviously, if I would say, these all our technologies comes into one play, we call it as XR, which is cross reality. And so this will stay as was what I can see and what I have observed from the market trend. A second technology which I can see are crypto, which will be definitely would be here. AI, ML, and these these other, I have not heard about more technologies but this big data these all are technologies which will stay, and AI and ML would create a much boom in the next.
Okay, let me put the same question to Bhairav. Bhairav, with the 5 areas which you say that these are going to be, there's no such thing as a safe bet. Even there was a .com bust also, and a lot of companies got taken out. So which are the areas we need to be focusing on, sectors, not just for government, but for students out there watching this broadcast, their parents, thinking what they should be working on in 5 years' time, 10 years' time?
Okay, so if that's the case, then I would say that, so AI is a very broad term, right? It's not a one size fits all. It's not like augmented reality, which is one thing which we all know. AI is a very, very broad, large concept. Within AI, you have multiple things. So one we spoke about is ChatGPT, which is a great thing, literally going to transform. I don't think it's going to be so great for search. I think it's going to be great for productivity. And my office is using that for writing essays and creating content on the web. It's just
all of you guys are after my job, no?
Yeah, it looks like it. But the second thing that I think is that in Indian companies, there's one amazing company I've come across called Beethoven, which has done amazing stuff on figuring out what is the right back. It uses AI to get you background music to any video that you want to make, getting the kind of things done. So I think that AI is, I agree with Wing Commander Sudhakar. I don't so much agree with quantum yet. In the next 10 years, I don't think quantum is going to blow up as big as Wing Commander thinks it will. But AI will be the single sector that drives every other sector, including augmented reality, including hardware, including things such as, even this Zoom call, which we said, hey, the government came up with this amazing thing of doing this thing, right? But it's an incremental thing. Zoom was already there. We just had to replicate it in India. That's all we have to do.
Okay, you don't have to innovate it. Absolutely right. Okay. So you're convinced AI in various forms or various utilities. ChatGPT being a search and language-based AI, but AI that is specified to particular tasks. I mean, you can have an AI that can drive its own drone. That also is a form of artificial intelligence. Anything which a computer is self-learning by processing 1,000,000 times, 2,000,000 times, whether it's to play chess or to fly a plane or to drive a car, all of this comes under the bracket. Okay, let me get Mr. Khurana back into this. Mr. Khurana, what do you feel are the definitely emerging sectors? We don't know where they go, but we need to be looking at other than coal, oil, gas, which we anyway are going to discuss for the budget.
Oh, absolutely. The one without any doubt is digital existence, which basically is right from the metaverse to the cryptocurrency, etc. That's one. Second is the paradigm of decentralization. Third is within AI, because AI, of course, is very broad. I think the generative models, which we are at stage 0 of with ChatGPT, but generative models, especially when they get ascribed to robotics. So the fourth one would be robotics. And the fifth one, if I may bring it in, is trying to bridge between what Bhairav said and Wing Commander said. I think that at some point of time in the next decade, quantum computing is indeed going to take off. Now, it hasn't really started in any big way. I would say these are the 5 big sectors for which we are in a position to be poised. And one little thing you must know, a lot of people may not know this on this program, I used to be CEO of IIT Bombay's business incubator called SIGN. So pretty much like the top universities in the world have such commercialization opportunities between professors and students, I used to sit on top of like close to 500 patents, intellectual property, etc. And I must say that each component of this, that is the availability of technology, incubation, blah, 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 is all correct. The problem is they are not working together with each other. So all the parts are fine, but some of the parts is not.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously we're doing a lot, and we have the talent that's running all the global companies. So if Google is going to dominate the mind space, well who runs it, or if Microsoft is going to dominate it, and that's where the competition is still going to be. Okay. I'll leave the last word with Mithali. Mithali, your best bet, okay, of the sectors that require a mention, that we need to focus on with as much energy and enthusiasm as we will do to manufacturing and software as a service and oil, gas, roadways, highways, which we will discuss during the budget.
So I think, Rishabh, number 1 is electric vehicles. I don't know why we haven't spoken about that so much today. EVs and battery storage, battery recycling. Second is solar energy. We need to have more innovation there, and I do think that I'm seeing that coming in, and India, manufacturing in India. The third is urban mass rapid transit technologies. We aren't focusing enough on public transport, and we need to bring in tech into running our public transport services better.
Okay.
The is waste regeneration and waste to energy. We need to have more technology in that area as well. And the last one is drone deliveries, because all of these are actually related to transport, logistics, and infrastructure, as you'll see.
Okay.
Because we can really
There's a hospital chain that started sample deliveries of drones in Delhi last week. So the reason we've had this conversation, I'm going to thank my guests on that thought, is just to give you a flavor, especially if you're watching out there and you might be involved in government, you might be involved in the private sector, looking for the next factory you want to invest in, or you might be studying and are planning out your next moves in career. There are traditional sectors of the economy which are not going away. Oil and gas ain't going away, ladies and gentlemen. Cement and concrete ain't going away. Building of roads and highways ain't going away, okay? But there are sectors that are emerging. And in a budgetary conversation that often gets sublimated, completely overtaken by these very large sectors, we sometimes miss what will be there of tomorrow, which perhaps we need to pay attention on. I'm going to thank my guests. It's been a crisp conversation. We'll have a larger one closer to budget day, perhaps on budget day as well.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.